Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone out to a joint meeting between the Kells County Board of Education and Kells County Board of Commissioners. Dated January 13th, 2026. If you would, please join me in a moment of silent prayer followed by the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation.
We'd like to call the meeting of the Kells County Board of Commissioners.
And we also call the meeting on Kansas County. Does everyone have a copy of the meeting, the agenda sheet that was passed out? Hopefully everybody knows everybody, but just in case, let's start on your end, all the way around, so we know who everybody is.
If you're
Tom Claggett, Reggie Cole, Keith Horton, Caswell County Finance Officer. And I'm Scott Whitaker, the County Manager.
Just one announcement, Commissioner, this is National Appreciation Month for the school board members. And, thank the board at our regular meeting yesterday for all that they do. And, most times it's a thankless job, but it's one that you got. And I just certainly appreciate all the work they put into it, just as well as you as the county commissioner. Okay, father on down, presentations, complete access to broadband updates. Brooks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Brooks, and I'm with the North Carolina Department of Information Technology. It's very nice to be asked to come back to Caswell County. Don't think I met most of you. I met most of you. When you see them go to sleep, they're used to me standing up here and talking, so you can look forward to that. But Scott asked me to come and make a brief presentation about the status of broadband in the county. What I wanted to do was to keep this as brief as possible. Generally, slides, especially those that show maps, don't show on screens. So what I asked you to do was to send me an email list, and I'll email everyone after the fact. So I'll send everyone a little packet with some maps. Feel free to ask questions of me tonight. I know the answer. I'll tell you. If I don't, I'll tell you, and I'll get the answer for you. Very briefly, and realizing that you've suffered through this before, but very briefly, when you speak about broadband, what we're speaking about are locations. Back in the day, if you think back to 2012 through 2019, 2020, broadband was considered widespread. It was generally allocated subsidy funding based on geographic units such as census blocks or census tracts. It was based on reporting that came from service providers, and there were often estimates about what was actually covered or not covered. When you talk about covered, not a geographic area, it's the concept of whether a location has access to whatever type of service was defined as being a broadband service. In 2020, North Carolina began to move towards identifying broadband availability to specific address locations. In 2021, the federal government followed suit. So as of today, across the nation, all 50 states and territories, the availability of broadband is defined whether broadband service is available at a specific location. Now, being the federal government got involved, of course, there has to be an acronym. So these are called BSLs, or broadband serviceable locations. I would say it's someone's house, it's someone's business. It might be an agricultural location. It could be a barn where maybe heat and light have to be. Don't know. But those are areas that are served by broadband and defined as broadband serviceable locations. Broadband is defined as, for lack of a better word, the fancy word is throughput, the speed. How fast can you get information and how fast can you send it? And this is referred to on a measure that's called bits per second. So if you think about my name is Jeff. That's 4 characters. Make the letter J. It takes 8 electrical impulses of either ones or zeros, which is electrical on or off, to make the letter J. A different set of ones and zeros to make the letter E, F, F, so forth, so on. So when you hear what the standards are, you can divide whatever number you hear by 8. That will tell you how many characters are transmitted per second. You can take 10% of that number. This is high math for me, so it's kind of late at night for this, but take about 10% of the number. That's how much data you actually receive, whether it's a television show, whether it's a Spotify, radio presentation, whether you're browsing on the internet or getting an email. The other 90% is what they call overhead. So in other words, that's the information it takes to say, this information is going to come to your PC or your cellular phone or to a router or server. Some of it goes here, some of it goes here. Is the information correct? It's called error correction. Does it make sense? Is it logical? And it's going to go in all different directions and be totally out of order until it gets where it's going, in which case it gets reassembled. And part of that overhead that's contained in that information says, you know what? This information is in front of me. This information is behind me. And that's how it begins to reassemble it to deliver to your television or your computer. For a long time, that standard's been 25 megabits per second coming down to you, and 3 megabits per second going from you somewhere else. Well, in the age of a wireless calling, in the age of, that might be 5 bits per second, I don't know. So in the age of, however, using more advanced technologies such as video calls, that upload speed simply was not great enough. And so what's been happening is the push is on for broadband because traditional legacy services, such as what are called POTS, playing telephone service with modems, DSL, ISDN, those technologies and topologies simply don't provide enough speed. So until recently, that standard was 25 megabits coming down to you, 3 megabits going up. Today, it's 100 megabits coming down to you, 20 megabits going up. Put it in context, the average household on broadband with televisions and web use, things like that, probably use 80 megabits in terms of its, and it's not like cumulative 80 megabits. That's like in real time, if you were going to sample it every 5 seconds over the course of a month, what would the average usage be? It'd be about 80 megabits. So that current standard is 100 coming down and 20 going up. At the end of this year, it changes to 100 down and 100 going up. So it sounds better, and it is an improvement. But as I'll share with you, that is the bare minimum, and in most places, we're actually doing much better. Now, 100 over 100 is often called symmetrical. That means that on the pipe that comes to you, yeah, I don't want to talk to you right now. So let me turn it over. I think it'll make it not work. It's not my kids or my wife, so otherwise I'd say, wait, I got to talk to them. So I need to be right here. I'm sorry. And wherever that camera thing is. Usually when I do board presentations, I'll wander around. I'm not good at standing here and being in front of the camera.
And you can probably do that because the mic will be capturing you if you do that.
Oh.
So feel free.
I like getting out from behind it. Much better. So you have this 100 over 100. And so what happens is you take these maps, you look at each individual address location on the map, and you say, does that location today have access to 100 over 20? Can it have access to 100 over 100? If the answer is yes, that location is served, and it's not eligible for any subsidies. If the answer is no, it's called unserved, that's fancy terminology, but it's eligible for subsidy. That's where we are today. Now, over the past few years, since 2021, there's been a lot of programs that have come out. I'll touch on those very briefly. At the federal level, there's the RDOF program, Regional Digital Opportunity Fund, that allocated about $16 billion across the U.S. It was done on a location by location basis, but was evaluated based on census blocks. The FCC came and they said, how much will it cost to provide broadband to a location in a census block? They set a value and then they bid out that census block. So for example, I don't think we have any RDOF bids up here, but let's say we had some. It might be a census block and they put it open to bid and they'd say, okay, AT&T, we're gonna let you open the bid because for whatever reason, somebody had to go first. And AT&T said, oh, I think you said $4,000, we bid $4,000. Charter would bid it at $3,600. Jeff's Internet Company would bid it at $3,200, roughly 10% decrements. So the idea was either, hey, you won that bid at this low number, or boy, I'm happy I didn't win it because you forced your competitor into a situation where it's economically not feasible for them to support that winning a bid to provide service to those locations. In my personal opinion, Charter, which is Spectrum, found themselves in that location. They won more RDOF bids than anyone else in the country, and in most cases, they underbid because the price of the make-ready work, which is where you see people doing work on poles for the lines that are in the air, what they call aerial deployment, went up a lot. Contract labor, which all the providers use contract labor to build networks, went up a lot. They said, oh, we got no money. So in North Carolina, we have the broadband pole replacement program. And the only applicant for those funds so far is Charter. But the rationale makes sense. You don't want to let $16 billion go to waste across the country and then have a certain amount of money not be available and consequently people don't get access to broadband. The second program is from the U.S. Department of Agriculture called the Reconnect program. This is about a $1.2, $1.3 billion a year program, half loans, half subsidies. They don't have to be paid back. I won two of those. I won two RDOF bids for clients before I came to the state when I was in consulting. I won two Reconnect bids. Highly competitive, very highly competitive, but there are fewer parameters around the Reconnect program than there are around RDOF. With RDOF, however, there are some issues, and I hear this all the time, especially when I meet with county managers and do board presentations. RDOF has a 6-year build out. So that time is running out at the end of this year and through the middle of next year. In some places, some of that work hasn't really begun. So you get people kind of antsy. Wait a minute, we couldn't go out for bid on these homes because they're part of RDOF? Correct. They're protected. They can't receive subsidies. So consequently, nothing's happening there. And wait, we're being left out. With the Reconnect program, it's a 5-year build out. So there's a little bit of difference between the two. North Carolina programs extend back to 2018 with the Great Grant program, growing rural economies through access to technology. I had to think about that. The first year that the state did the Great Grant, there was $10 million available. I won for my client, Roanoke Lake, 2.5 of that for 4 counties. Be proud of that. It made a big difference. The Great Grant program was prescribed by the General Assembly. It was a scored program. So literally, when you were completing your application, you could actually calculate your score and figure out where you would come out at. That's great, no pun intended, except for the fact that you could calculate your score and figure out what you needed to do. So as an example, I won't name their name, who actually said this, my client said, man, this is wonderful. We're going to get $2 million per county to help our build out. You can ask for $2 million and you won't get anything. Or we can kind of game it and we'll get about $500,000 per county. That's what we did, and that's what we got, and that's what every other provider did. So what happened is that even though this was heavily prescribed, a decent amount of money for 26 providers came in to sort of kickstart broadband expansion in North Carolina. Following year, it went $15 million. The following year, it went $20 million, and was kind of sitting there until ARPA came into play. So with ARPA, all of a sudden the state said, what are we going to do? We believe we're going to put $970 million into broadband, more than any other state in the United States in terms of placing money into broadband. more than New York, more than California. We really were trying to make a big statement here in terms of broadband. The problem with that was that it also required matching contributions from the providers, which are expected. That's kind of a standard part of these broadband programs, but also matching funds from counties. Well, our issue inside North Carolina was that sometimes counties didn't quite have that money. So the General Assembly modified that, and the county contributions were sort of reduced in terms of requirement. We ended up getting 305 applications for great grants. We awarded about $340 million through that program in every county in North Carolina. Then I got hired, and everything went downhill from there. But I was hired to develop 3 programs: the Completing Access to Broadband program, the Stopgap program, and the Broadband Pole Replacement program. Completing Access to Broadband was a $400 million program. And one of the things that was important to us was that we actively engaged counties in the process. So, as you guys know, because I've said it, I set off on my district tour across the state. I've been to 92 counties. Professional, I've been to all 100 as a native, of course, to all 100, but been to 92 professionally to meet with county managers. I've done board presentations in 53 counties, and I've tried to explain these are our programs and these how they work. The issue was that there were legal wranglings back and forth with the U.S. Department of Treasury. CAB was delayed by more than a year. So what happened is counties that were setting aside funds for the matching requirement as specified by North Carolina law had spent that money on other ARPA projects, water, sewer, or whatever other projects were allowed under ARPA. Matching funds just weren't available. So in round 1 of CAB, we didn't have a high participation rate. So we did it again, and the General Assembly finally said, you know what, counties don't have to put that money in. So then we were able to have a high level of participation and bring more funding into each county in North Carolina. Everybody okay so far? Everybody bored? It's not maybe too exciting, but I don't want you terribly bored. There are 2 programs that are underway right now. And I'll tell you these, and then I'll tell you what I know about Caswell County. So the first program is the BEAD program, Broadband Equity, Adoption, and Deployment. So we were awarded, this is run through the Department of Commerce, the National Telecommunications Infrastructure Association. It's funded by the Something Investment Jobs Act 2022, and North Carolina was slated to receive $1 billion for broadband expansion. As part of this, we had to complete these massive plans that met all the federal standards. In essence, what we told the federal government was, we're going to do our BEAD program just like we did our CAB program. We're going to do our digital opportunity program, which is where you train people in libraries, things like that, just like we've done it with our internal program. And they said, wonderful, works for us. And you go through all these gating processes. So we're pretty excited about that. We're getting the last of our CAD money spent because we couldn't use federal funds until we finished expending the money that we had through ARPA. On June, I think it was the 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in there, maybe literally around D-Day, not sure. Federal government said, you know what? Nope, we're not doing that anymore. Scrap your work. We're not going to do that anymore. You can't prefer fiber anymore, even though fiber is a permanent connection to a location. And you can't worry about poverty levels. You can't worry about whether you're adjacent to schools. You can't worry about this, that. All these things we couldn't worry about anymore. So we had 90 days to throw away everything we worked on for a couple of years, start all over to meet these guidelines. Then there was 30 days to go out for bids, 30 days to evaluate them and make recommendations. The opportunity to make a choice was taken away from us, went back to the federal government. In the meantime, while kind of all that, just where that was going on, however, we've been allocated an additional $500 million because our GIS team had identified a lot of locations in North Carolina that the federal government had missed in their mapping. So we're excited. We're getting $1.5 billion. We're going to hit every address in North Carolina with broadband. Every resident address, every non-resident address, every community anchor institution. We're going to bring Wi-Fi to parks. I mean, it's just, it was great. The government said, nope, we're not going to do that. You're going to do it our way. So we did our work. We submitted it to NTIA. They didn't like it. They sent it back and they said to us, nope, you're favoring fiber too much. You need to work on it some more. They worked on it some more. And after 4 months, kind of hinting that they may approve it. Now, my issue with this is that they want the, what they really want us to do is fund satellite service, low Earth orbit satellite. And I think low Earth orbit satellite is great, but it's not a permanent location to anyone's home. What we expect to receive, whether it's Amazon or Starlink, is a tripod you set up in the yard, a dish, about 200 feet of cable, and a network interface device that goes in the home. What's really concerning to me personally is that the MRC, the monthly recurring charges that would be charged to a subscriber, are roughly double what the fiber providers charge. And they don't have a SNAP type of plan. So if you have a low income household, which is where often you have a child in the house, and we really are wanting those folks to have the advantage of broadband access, there's no economic provision in there, as we were requiring in our original proposal, and it's required in every single program we did, including GRAPE and CAV. I can't change that. Our team can't change it. It is what it is. We have a higher percentage of fiber locations approved per capita than all the other states. So I think we did good. But if you think about our topography, even here in the Piedmont, where we have so many hills up and down, we have so much foliage, which you can't, in physics say you can't take satellite signals through trees. You just can't do it. You know, it creates issues in terms of folks being able to utilize these technologies. All right. Any questions so far? All right, very briefly, wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it, and that in math, so that way I'll know it, because I really can't read. I think I need classes occasionally. So far, out of the 4 programs, by 4 I mean two rounds of GRAPE grant, 2 rounds of CAB in Caswell County. We funded 2,301 locations. Total investment was about $10.7 million. And I'm assuming that you guys can figure out how to pull some of that into the property tax rolls. So I don't know, that's non-committal, but I know in some of the counties in which I did consulting work, that was a topic of discussion between the provider and county as to whether or not this would become part of the property tax. We don't have any awards for Reconnect that I know of, or for RDOF in the county. We also don't have any awards through our Office of Additional Opportunity in the county. There are 9 state agencies that were awarded funds through that grant program in their phase 1. And those are coming through, and I'll put this in the email sent to you because I really can't read that. But you get, like, for example, the COG was awarded funds. So they're supposed to do work across all the counties that are in the COG. You've got Adult Protection, North Carolina Department of APS, got North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, that specified in their grant applications that they would have funds that would come to support some work in the county. I know because yesterday I read all 9 of these applications looking for Caswell County in the verbiage just to see what was there. I will follow up on that. I'll let you know what I find out. In terms of the BEAD program, there are 270 locations within Caswell that are going to be funded by BEAD. Out of those, 135 are fiber, 135 are satellite. Out of 135, 6 are from Starlink, and the remainder are from Amazon. Now, it's kind of interesting. Amazon has just now launched their first retail satellites. So we'll see how all that works out. Starlink obviously has been in operation for a while. I didn't know this. 10% of Starlink satellites fall out of the sky every year. Just thought that was interesting. So they have to replace them. But so the program, 5 years, build it out. Forgot to mention this, our programs in North Carolina, also 5 years. But there's a 2-year construction process and then 3 years that we monitor it after construction. So in all 5 years bound by contract. Now for the current programs in Caswell County, they're coming through the CAD program that I mentioned previously funded. All this work has to be done by the end of this year. Gotta be done by 12/31, and I think that one of those actually is slated to be through, I'll say, well, I'll let you know, I think by the end of October. But all those funded locations, it has to be done by the end of this year. So in summary, I'm here to help. I want you to understand that our office, we have no statutory regulatory authority over broadband, neither does the FCC. I think we have good relationship with service providers. So when we have issues, we call them and say, look, we got a problem. Got a service outage, we got somebody that's not covered. You see that your fiber's passing this location, somebody's down this road, what can we do? We have pretty good success in doing that. We're sort of moving that process, and that represents 2,062 inbound inquiries, myself and a couple of folks on my team, over the past 2 years. We take those, kind of bubble them up. Caswell County is a great example. We have had probably 25 here, I guess, maybe 25 or 30 here. And if they're not served, we bubble up to the top of the list for our stopgap program. Stopgap launched at the very end of last year, taking applications through the 26th. A lot of these service providers are kind of worn out with it. They just said, we've done CAD, they're great, Reconnect and RDOF, and we're just tired of it. So one of the things I encourage you to do is call your service provider and say, we sure would love for you to bid on stopgap projects in the county. Right now, there are 85 locations in Caswell County that are being bid. I believe there are more locations that could be added to that list. I still think once all this is over and done with, just my cursory glance is we're probably short 500 locations in the county in terms of them being fully funded for broadband access. If you need to know who to call or write, just let me know and I'll give you their contact information. So stopgap closes on the 26th. We hope to make those decisions by the 1st of March and begin to announce awards. Those projects will also have to be complete by the end of this year. The remainder of our funds are going to Helene Recovery in Western North Carolina. We've got about $85 million that is being directed to the western part of the state. It's not impacting the amount of money we have for stopgap. What was appropriated by the legislature, we have all that funding. We had additional money to it. Whatever we don't use in stopgap, this is a one-shot deal, then it goes west and it's now out of our hands. Anyway, I'm all done. I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Oh, in the build out process, there's the two fiber optic N7.
For the B, these are, because they're different companies, Amazon and Starlink will be figuring out how to provision and literally ship satellite units to people. Because as of today, installation's not included. It's a self-install. And then fiber, obviously, the service provider does it. To give you everybody just a brief hint, if we have 2 years on the project, if you were looking at the full 2 years, you would not see anybody doing work in the area until about the last 4 or 5 months. Because the first part of that 2 years, coming off the grant, you're contracted with the state for those addresses. It's not, well, go serve this area. Each individual address is contracted. Now, if an address on that map, like for example, somebody came and built a house after that map, then they're not eligible for subsidy. You can't subsidize a vacant lot. It has to be a broadband serviceable location. However, if those lines are built, so here's a house, new one goes in here, obviously the service provider will probably provide service to that house. So they'll do their engineering work. They then actually walk the route to see if they're going to go underground or in-ground. It's called OSP, outside plant work. They'll finish their final budgets. They'll make arrangements to get their materials. They'll get their contractors literally under contract. And that's one of the hardest things is to get contract crews. So you may see a contract crew 1 week, and then 3 weeks later, you haven't seen anybody, then you'll see a different contract crew. It's just the nature of the business.
So based on the location, will it be either satellite or fiber optics, or does that depend? Based on the location.
The individual address was awarded one type of technology. You're absolutely correct, yes. So it would either be this or that. Now, that's not to keep a fiber provider, if they're running middle mile, it's called middle mile down the road to get to an area that they want. If there are other houses there, they're on satellite, they can certainly offer their services there. There's nothing to keep them from selling. You know, like if you have satellite and I'm a pro, I can sell my service to you if you want to buy. You don't have to take satellite.
Some time ago, in the exact room here, we were told that there were several companies doing broadband. They have a different time frame as to when it would be completed. In November and December on Highway 86, Park Springs Road, coming toward Yanceyville, they were laying cable. I live on a road that's between Old 86 and what we call it New 86. And they came about 300 feet up that road. But my cable comes from Comcast. It's always been there. And, you know, I'm happy with it. And nobody say, hey, you can get this if you want this. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And that's what I don't understand, because if I'm in Yanceyville, I probably got 4 bars on this phone now. But if I go to Milton on Snatchbury Road, I may have 1 or none.
Send me your information, email it to me, and certainly make this inquiry and find out. Been a number of years in the cellular business, so I understand the technology, I understand the issues. I get people that call me about cellular, and we attempt to help them resolve those issues. We have responsibility for broadband. There's no one in the state that has responsibility for cellular telephones. But we do know people, so we call people and try and find out what's going on. We just had some issues in Fletcher, North Carolina, which is just outside of Asheville. And people had service and all of a sudden, no service. Couldn't figure out why. And it used to be that cellular service was handled between towers. So you had a microwave link to a microwave link to a microwave link. Now they're connecting these towers via fiber. No fiber gets cut and there's no backup fiber, then the tower goes down. Sometimes you see these carriers will decommission the tower, they'll take it out of service because it's costing them too much money. You don't have enough local customers there to be paying the bill, and you've got all these people that are roaming, and there's cost that goes to the intercarrier transfer where they're having to pay out to the other carrier. They'll say, you know, we'll just take that tower off the air. It's like where I live. I'm fortunate, blessedly, so I have 3 broadband on my street. I have 0 bars from any cellular provider. So, you know, I call them all because I know them all. Help, great, we appreciate it, we love you. And then you don't get anything. If you'll send me your information, I'm happy to make calls to Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile or whoever.
Well, see, that's what the average citizen does not know. We're in this room now, I'm hearing what you're saying. But once I leave this room, a lot of people still don't have that information. They don't know. Because for years and years and years, the road I live on, they wouldn't put cable out there because there weren't enough households. But eventually they did. So we kept knocking on the door. And like I'm saying, if you ever go in that part of Caswell County over there, you're not gonna have any service.
To give you a quick idea, in Caswell County, talk about the broadband, it's about $60,000 to $70,000 a month of broadband here. So if I'm a service provider and I say, oh, I could come down this road and the number is about 7 to 8 subscribers per what they call route mile, then I could be cash flow break even. Because we subsidize build out initially. Generally, it's about 75% of the cost. The provider pays the other 25%. We do not subsidize the maintenance. That provider will build that network again at least once, maybe 1.5 times over the 22.5 year life of that network. So they've got to have enough cash flow to say, all right, for you, I can pay $6 a month because they have to buy internet. I can pay $6 a month if you have internet. I can pay $8, $9 a month to 24-hour customer support. I'm gonna pay this much for tech, this, da, 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 the van, all that. And then, my cash flow break even. My concern is if you get into out years, and let's say we have storms, they may have built out down the road where there are 2 or 3 houses. The storm takes that out and they say, no, we can't afford to rebuild it. It's not getting subsidized. I'm very concerned about that. That's, nobody asked me my opinion, so I'm just telling you what I think.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't get any other questions from me.
Everybody else?
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, why did the federal government shift from all fiber to many satellite locations?
Elon Musk's influence in Washington.
Let's step back.
$600. Well, I mean, it's broadband service, and it's certainly nice when everything else blows up. But the flip side of that is it's a $600 unit. That's what our cost is. That they don't have to do anything to, versus maybe 4,000 or 5,000 for fiber. Difference is, again, in my mind, you have a home and say you got a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in Caswell County. You bring fiber to that home, it's there. So people can move, the fiber's there. I'm in there and I got this little tripod with an antenna and I go and I cut some branches down and deface and whatever, but I move, I might throw it in the trash can. It may go to the landfill. I may take it with me. It's not attached to that house anymore. So now that location is no longer served, but nobody cares. I'm a little cynical because I'm passionate. Because my job is to serve, and you guys heard me say this, so for your benefit, my job is to serve every citizen in this state. I don't care if you're red, white, green, pink, black, blue, I don't care if you're male, female, rich, poor, doesn't matter. My job is to serve the citizens in this state. So something like this is frustrating to me because my fellow citizen is being screwed over. Oh, I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have said, where's the tape recorder thing over there? It's just how I feel. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So I just want to clarify, so you're saying after this next wave that'll be done in 2031, we will have about 500 customers without the ability to have.
I'm going to be drilling down this summer. My rough estimate over the next few days is about 500 locations that are uncovered. There are, I think it's on my phone, actually. I'll give you some hard numbers. Our data gets refreshed every 6 months. So as of November, we had 10,992 locations in Caswell County that have access to broadband. That's a pretty fair number. We have 1,544 locations that do not have access to broadband, none whatsoever. Being is going to take the 270. The other person's going to take the 85. We've identified another 122 plus another 222 that we think are falling into existing network plans that haven't been recorded. That approximately is about 500 plus or minus. So one of the things that I'll be doing, because they got nothing else for me to do, is because I hadn't worked for the government for 3.5 years. They don't trust me to do government things. So once all the little plans are ready, they get to go out and kind of do this stuff. So what I want to do is take all this mapping data and calculate the exact locations, then go back to the service providers in the county or that are adjacent to the county. So the Comcast, Brightspeed, Charter. There are a couple that are adjacent to Caswell. Say, hey, what would it take for you to bring some fiber into this location? So I'll give you a poster child for that. There is a location it's called Sandyfield, North Carolina. It's down southeast of Fayetteville. It's predominantly black. There are about 35 houses down there. And I first went down to meet with everybody in that little area back in 2022. And since then, I've gone to every provider, 4 different providers. Can you bring service in here? Well, we can't cross county lines. It's Columbus County and Bladen County. We can't do that. So forth, so. But how much will it cost you to bring it? $954,000. So I'm sitting there every month in our meetings. can I get $954,000 to go here for Focus Broadband? And I think it's 323 for charter to come here, and can you do a shared routing facility here? Does it just Browntown Road that circles through two counties? We get it. No, can't quite do that. No, can't quite do that. That's where my frustration comes in, because I can't make that happen. But the best I can do is keep raising it as an issue and make sure people understand it's an issue. Maybe somebody will listen. So feel free to write this guy, and this guy will write me, because when I go to somebody and say, look, I met with the county manager, because that's my client. I met with the whole county commissioners. They're putting pressure on me. Can you listen to them? And I invite people on our team to say, hey, go with me. Let's go to East Arcadia down in Columbus County. Let's come up to Yanceyville. Let's go up here. And I don't think we want to do that. Well, you're missing the point, because broadband is local. It's not out of Raleigh. It's not out of Washington. It's right here for broadband.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry I went so long. Apologies. So, yeah, if y'all don't mind, I go home and my wife has fixed gumbo and
So on the agenda, we have the Castle County School Celebration highlights. This will be done by Vice Chair George Evans. Let's keep it those snaps.
So before we start, I just want to let everybody know that, our superintendent, interim superintendent Much wanted to be here. He's a little under the weather, so that's why he's not. So a little bit of celebration. So last year we had record high graduation rate at 88.5%. That graduation rate increased by 13.1 points from 2016 to 2025. Compared to counties around us, state average is 87.7. Orange County was at 86.9. Alamance at 84.4. And Rockingham County Schools at 84.8. Not too bad. Castle County Schools did exit the state's low performance district status this year. And 83% of our schools demonstrate or meet or exceed growth. 4 of the 6 schools improved their performance grades. 2 elementary schools do exceptionally well. North Elementary School placed within the top 25% elementary schools for growth in the state, while South Elementary placed within the top 10 elementary school growth in the state. South is also recognized by the Piedmont Trad Education Consortium as a signature school for the 25-26 school. At this time, we have 2,341 students enrolled.
Just to give you a little tidbit, 59 years ago was when I first came to Caswell. We had roughly 6,000. And people say, well, where did they go? Well, a lot of them died. And what I mean by that is, people don't necessarily move into Caswell County. They don't have children like they used to have children. Now, there's a sheet that you should have that talks about charter schools. And look, I'll let you talk about that. Let's give a thorough scale of what that means. Schools of choice, what these kids would actually be in our school system right now.
So a charter school, a child that is in Castle County that goes to a charter school, the charter school sends us an invoice every month with their ADM, which is their average daily membership for a child that's in our school or in our county. So what we have to do is what we receive locally, we divide that amongst our students plus those charter school students, and we have to send that local portion to the charter school. The charter school also receives state funds. They receive very similar funds, just like our state funds, and they have started to try to receive federal funds. So they're essentially receiving the same funding sources that we are. If a child goes to a charter school and then comes back to Caswell County schools, whatever money we have spent to that school, we do not receive it back. Even though that child might have needs or something to that nature, we will not receive that money back. Once we send it to a charter school, and we have to do it every single month on a 10-month basis, once we send that money, we are not able to get that back. And right now we have, 346 is our last number, and that changes every single month. We do go through and make sure that the address of that student is in Caswell County. If it is not, we send it back and say, this might be Alamance Burlington's, or we have some Orange County, and we also do some Rockingham County where we have on those outskirts. But it's hard. And we would love for those students to come back, but that's the charter school. And that's why if you see on our, local current expense, we have, 8,100, and that is strictly just charter schools. I think last year we spent over $300,000 to charter schools.
There's another piece that's not on this sheet, but we have several students who are homeschooled.
Mhm.
And of course, that's school of choice. And, like I said, we used to have roughly 6,000 students. When I was at the high school, we had 1,100 students. That's been 22 years ago. Now, the high school has 598 students. And one thing about charter schools people don't know, they don't have to provide transportation. All the teachers don't have to be certified. They don't have to accept exceptional children. Whereas public schools, I always use the analogy, you take the good, bad, and the ugly. What you got to do. So a lot of people don't know that, but we want to share that with you to make sure that you see the numbers that we deal with. And, people have a choice. And it's just a fact of life. Any questions about that?
I have a question.
Yes.
The total payment date, is that starting July?
So it starts, we don't send a charter school payment in July. It starts in August when children go back to school. So this is from August until I pulled it yesterday, which was 1/12. This is the total payment that we've received so far.
Yes.
This is this $422.22 per student. I want to look at number 1 and number 13, but I think it's off just a little bit.
So the charter school payment does not only include like what we receive from the county. It's fines and forfeitures. It's a different thing. So it changes every single month. It's just a base dollar amount, and then we have to add to it every month.
But you don't know how many students that are homeschooled.
We do not keep a record of homeschool kids. I could ask, our exceptional children director. They usually have a roundabout number. We do not keep them.
You also don't know how many students might be attending a religious-based school, or they don't see state funding start.
Correct, or any students that go to a Virginia school.
Private school where they pay.
Mhm.
They pay tuition, they'll have to say.
Correct.
Another question on that? Okay.
Right, so I knew, you'd have a lot to talk about financially this evening with what was on the agenda, so I want to hit some things that the county's been doing, and, as I said at the first of the agenda, put at the top, I mean, your board and the county board, has a shared goal of providing quality education. And another connection or similarity there between our boards is, we've been through a lot of leadership change, a lot of transition this few years. You felt just like the county has, the school system has felt the pain of that. I know you're going through that process now. So from the county's angle, and myself and staff largely compiled what I'm going to show you, but our board is free to fill in some blanks or give its perspective. But really what you see on the screen, we just did internally a review of kind of where we've been at it, and the message that really from my perspective, I started pretty much May of this past year. And from my perspective, it's been a year where we've been trending in a very positive direction. That's, I would say, largely to our Board of Commissioners, their leadership, and just, back to our challenges. You read about those in the paper. You're aware of, coming off of trying to catch up audits. One of the things that, we can say right now is we're actually current through the end of 24. That's the first time we've been up to date on our audit since 2020. But with that said, we're pushing hard to get our 25 fiscal year 25 audit done. And so really and this is again on our Facebook page if you want to see it, or I'd be glad to forward it to your board if you want to see any of this in detail. But just listed a few things, several things that from our perspective that was some of the good stuff. We just talked about the broadband improvements. Enough said on that this evening. Enough said on our audits. Had a lot of key staff positions filled or restructured. Some things going on in our departments, and I had prior to this meeting scheduled. We had down school system investments and supplements. Last year, you'll remember with this Board of Commissioners, some big changes for Caswell in terms of while the numbers are never big enough, right? Kind of in the game on school supplements. Finally making some progress in that direction and making some significant investments. I was really impressed coming in as a new county manager, seeing our board's interest in going out and wanting to see your school facilities, those capital projects. I think that was really helpful, seeing the need, understanding the need, understanding where you were coming from a financial situation. So of course, you've all heard about Cherokee Tobacco, currently under construction in Pelham, major economic development project for us. And some other items, back to really just focusing on people. This photo you see is something that happened through our North Carolina Cooperative Extension partnership with PCC and the Danville Regional Foundation. So program where we're providing 70 free laptops to Caswell households without a computer. Purchased much needed unit number 205, new ambulance this year. Still have progress to make in some really major projects that have been delayed for reasons out of our control, as we're still under the local government commission's watchful eye till we get off the unit assistance list. New Pelham Fire Department was dedicated not too long ago. Great to see that improvement. We have a new firing range for the sheriff's office that is at our landfill. Don't always talk about that publicly because it's largely for our sheriff's department and any other jurisdictions that they coordinate with for training. And I mentioned the grant laptops and training for citizens. We had a leadership academy training for directors, but that was under the leadership of our previous interim manager. Kind of brought that program here, so we had some really good training for our department heads. And safety committee. Watched in our meetings. We've talked about some OSHA inspections this year that really kind of caught us off guard and also changed the direction of our focus on safety. A lot of improvements have been made. Have a new safety manual, have a new safety committee that's really trying to make some improvements in those areas. New boat dock and shed, that's the picture you see here. Strategic funding efforts related to opioids, and that's focused on prevention, treatment, and recovery. We have had multiple Parks and Rec grants, again, really something that benefits benefits, our youth and our citizens. That's youth football, volleyball, playground equipment, new cooperative extension storage building. That's, for all of that equipment that the community gets access to, a safe place to store that. And then a really big thing we haven't talked about a whole lot yet is, we're trying to update our comprehensive plan. Our current comprehensive plan, is from 2013, 14. That really should be our guidebook of, who we want to be as a county. And, there's a large steering committee, 23 members on that committee. And, that's represented geographically across the county. And that steering committee is about to have it soon, its second meeting. And, one of the things that will likely come out of there, at the very first meeting, discussion about education, educating our youth as well. And so, that's something, an opportunity for your board and citizens to provide input to those members to come out. There's going to be a lot of community engagement with that initiative. And it's going to take a while to get that plan together, but when it's together, it really should be informing our decisions. And from a very practical standpoint, when that is finished, let's just say there is an educational component of that objective in that. Those are the kinds of things that will help our board make decisions related to funding and needs. And so invite you to be a part of that process. And again, thank you so much from the manager standpoint of being here. I'm glad to see the boards together, to see all of their faces. And later in the meeting, we'll be talking about how we do this more often. And that's all I have.
Question? All right. Moving right along, discussion items about Oakwood. Just a thought before that book come on. Oakwood is 60+ years old. If you look at the front of the school, Bob thinks it's a small school, but it's not. The largest elementary school that we have. It's been remodeled several times. It goes backwards toward the woods, does not go sideways. And as a result of that, a lot of things need to be revamped, remodeled, yes, say that word. But before Christmas, we got a bonus, 18.9. That sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. And we don't have it, you didn't have it, so that was a blessing for us. But I'll let Brooke talk about that because we're in the stage now gathering information about, especially with what the needs we need for Oakwood School, air conditioning, heat, etc. Because when you add on, like it's been done in the past, one hooks into another, they don't always mesh as far as the roof goes. So Brooke, I'll let you talk briefly about that, where we are starting on that.
Yes, it's just like Mr. Battle said, we are just now getting, into the real, weeds, so to speak, on this. Oakwood, I think it has 30, if I remember correctly, about 30 different HVAC systems for that school. And this is going to have one central HVAC system. It's going to update some electrical. We will make things a little prettier, but as far as it's more going to be a mechanical renovation. And we are going to get the school, because it's a very sound building. It's got some roofing needs that will be addressed in this 18 million. There's also, we're probably going to have a meeting in the next few months with the architects and everything to get a good plan going. They're going to walk through the school. We're going to hopefully be able to start a little bit this year, and then the real project will start in the next 2 years. Depending on if we are able to possibly move students, or if we're going to move student classrooms, or how we're going to figure out that situation working around children. This could hopefully only take about until 2028. Now in construction, that's not always the case, so it could take a year longer, but it just depends on how we're able to do with the students. And once they are able to get into the building and actually see some of the stuff, how long it will actually take. But we are very, very excited for the grant that we received, and we hope y'all are as well.
And as you, if you follow that, those grants, some buildings in some counties will be replaced. Ours mainly will be, like Brooke said, for HVAC because all the additions that have been made to them, put it all in there. The biggest challenge we're going to run into is when can you do it? You can't just take the children and put them in another building somewhere. But those challenges we will meet because definitely have to use that money. So Brooke, while you're on board, you might want to go right on into the 10 and 11.
Can I ask a question?
I'm sorry.
The money, I'm hopeful that you're gonna be able to take care of this problem we have on Vitale Road. Trying to get backed up. I know you just recently changed there.
Right.
I'm hoping you're gonna find some access to the school.
So, and just piggyback on that, we're doing the same thing for North School too. We're looking at that too. Because believe it or not, Joe and I were talking about this the other day. All of our kids are mapped on the system for the bus. So we've probably got more kids riding cars to school than they are on the bus. And if you ever been up to North School, school lets out roughly what, 250, 255. Right by there about 220, 225. They already lined up. I was a principal, so I know how that is. And they want to be the first in the line. And then when you come out of Waltersville Road, that's tough. And prior to that though, when North opened, we did not have the turning lane in the beginning. That turning lane helped a lot, but it's still a challenge that we have up there, especially over with too, with that little side road. But it's a little better now, but it's still, it's a work in progress.
TFC is doing studies for us at several of our schools. Look what the problem is, it's kind of landlocked, a deep lot, but not this way. So there's a whole lot you can do with those cars, the way that building is built. Like Val said, it's tiny in the front, but it goes way back and it's not a lot of land. But put it to a
I see a long time ago, kids rode a bus. But now they ride the cars in the morning and in the afternoon.
Oakwood has 364, the largest population of them. A lot of them ride cars. So that's a lot of cars to get in and out.
Any other questions on that part? Okay, Brooke.
So just some budgetary highlights for our 25-26 school year. We actually just finished, I presented yesterday our quarterly reports. And overall, our revenues and expenditures are looking very similar to what we would expect for mid-year. We do obviously always have capital outlay needs. So, and I also wanted to touch base on that we still are in year 2 of not receiving a state budget. Our state budget, I say this and because it does impact our local budget because we do have locally funded employees. So when the state increases the state health plan like they did this year, it went up almost $500 per person. It also went up, our retirement contribution also went up about a percentage. So we're at 24.67% this year. That was released as a mini budget at the beginning of the year. I have seen the state release a budget this late in the year. One time we were doing retros for employees when the state released a budget in February, and we did this in March. And usually the state will go all the way back to July of the start of the fiscal year. So with that being said, there has not been any talk of the state actually releasing a budget, so I'm not very hopeful about that. And they have not released anything about the state health plan contribution or what they're expecting to do with retirement or any possible raises for the next fiscal year. So in the budgetary process for our local funds, I will be presenting like they're going to do a 4% is what they usually been on par for the 4 is doing a 4%, and I'm going to increase our retirement and our state health plan contribution just so we have hopefully better idea, and hopefully in the next couple weeks, we'll have more information from the state. Is there any questions on that? Because that's about all I have for our budget.
Can you just kind of zero in on the current expense and the capital outlay?
Expense right now, as of December 30th, our expenditures were at 56.82. I will say that this includes, 2 reimbursables that we have not received from the town of Yancville yet. We have received those, but they were in the third quarter and not the second quarter. So we received those for the water, and that is in, the 6,500, which is our operational expenses. And then we have received our, like I,
Well, I just see some, looks like confusion. So explain what's going on with the water, because I don't know it all, because you're all aware.
do you want me to, okay.
Yeah.
So the city of Danville is providing water for the town of Yancville. It runs through our meter. So we are having to, work with the town, and we are paying the water bill, and then the town is reimbursing us for that water that we are receiving. We've been doing this since about August of 2025. And, I've heard that the town is hopefully on the horizon of not having to do this anymore. But that's what I was talking about with the water reimbursement. Any questions on that? And so then we go to our capital outlay, and as I said before, we do have some capital outlay needs, and that's why that expenditures is a little bit higher. We had some things happen this year that we were not able to repair. We replaced, we were at the point of replacing. And so that's why capital outlay is a little bit higher on our expenditure side.
Speaking of that, I did notice that, there were a couple items added to the list that we didn't talk about the first year. I know we had X number of dollars spent, but, I see like, Civic Center got HVAC unit. I don't think we talked about it originally. And I see what the paving, I don't see the paving. Probably couldn't get to that.
But everything,
Are you on this spreadsheet?
I'm like,
Okay,
no, not that you.
okay. I was talking about our, quarterly report, but I can switch that one.
But we're gonna get to that one when you finish.
Okay, then. Yes, as I said before, we just had some capital outlay needs that we were, in the part of, we were not repairing, we were having to replace. Is there any questions on the budgetary, anything budgetary for item 10 on the agenda?
So not counting, not getting into this yet, I think we're what, $100,000 we're having to take out of our capital fund. It's about this capital outlay budget. Not even talking about this.
I was gonna mention that, see a bunch of numbers, good to have some. Didn't see anything on the fund balance. That's something that you tried to us prior to us getting to the next budget year. I just overlook it.
Oh, yeah.
Our fund balance is on the front page of the quarterly reports.
You should have stacked, it's 4 or 5 sheets stapled together.
Yes.
I'm guessing we're on this capital outlay on the expenditure side where you budgeted 50,000 for HVAC and actually have spent 98.
Yes, sir.
That's replacement instead of repairs.
Yes, and that also is an invoice that will actually be coming to the county for the 888 as well. But the project's not been completed fully, so I wasn't gonna send the invoice until everything was completed.
Right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's for the computer system that deal with.
Yes.
I gotta look at it. So it had to be replaced before it went out of the plot. So we approved, we talked to y'all about it. We approved to take part of the money from here so it could be finished. And then was account as we were in a run.
You have a question on that?
And now we're moving on to the $888,000. You should have a spreadsheet of estimates and about when The maintenance director is expecting quotes. We hope to have all three quotes by the end of the month for everything that is on the sheet. And then we'll be able to present that to our board and to the county commissioners as well.
Brooke, you might want to talk a little bit about South Elementary, the problem we're having there.
So we did run into a little bit of an issue with South Elementary right before Christmas break. With the water treatment facility there. It's actually a very similar situation to what's happening. But, so we were able to repair it because what is needed to, fix and replace it is going to have to be done when children are not in the building. So that's gonna have to be a summer project. We have already spent about $7,900 on that, and the estimated cost to fix the water treatment facility is $70,000 roughly. And that is what is in yellow on the page, and that is also what we would like to request us able to add into the 888 for this fiscal year if possible.
Any questions about the 888? I think that's $4,300 there. So what the cost coming right now?
Yes.
The one for South Elementary, the water filter treatment, you showing at 70,000. You said that's a new item.
It will have to be a new item, yes, sir. It was an unexpected expenditure that we had that happened right before Christmas break.
My question is, where was that 70,000 going to be spent prior to that? Or was it?
So in the quotes, because all of this is just estimated budgetary items right now, I asked the maintenance director that, and he said he thought it was gonna be what we were gonna potentially spend on Oakwood. So with us getting the grant, we were able to kind of,
Oakwood is a well, South is a well water system. One of the, two that we have in the county.
yes, sir.
Soda Creek in there, so filtration is very important there, and then it's failing. So I guess it was putting on the school was built in Alabama.
It was.
So the water has a pinkish color to it, at times, so I think they put a Band-Aid on it.
That has-
It's safe to drink. And then
The couple, the on here, and I guess up one of the ones playing visit, and I'm guessing it's expense because it's new, the building is. Whatever came about the issues that the new school had, people I had with the leaks and the roof, did contract ever come back and
I can ask about, I've not heard anything from the,
something was replaced on that field at the door that we looked at coming in. And that's how it's
that, but it was, and it was also there was a big.
In the cafeteria.
Kitchen.
Yeah.
Cafeteria, like,
I think some of that was already fixed, but we can get a follow-up.
I can ask.
So one guy said it was condensation, he wasn't sure, but
Mhm.
the warranty was still there.
And some of these, they're trying to get a third quote and second quote, some of them trying to get a first quote. Some of these are hard to get a company to come out and quote. Can't get additional quotes. Our board would normally move forward if you're all okay with it on things we have second quotes on. Now I can't get third quotes by it.
well, what's your lead time on getting the project in once you do get all your quotes in?
I thought it's like most of this, we can all have wrapped up by the end of the, fiscal year, maybe a few things that we have to ask for some time in the next year, but I think after we get the quotes, a lot of this is being quoted by Brady with their state contract anyway. He's still trying to get a different quote to go against them, but if we can't get her, we're basically going to move forward with it.
Speaking to Wilson's.
Ready to go to school.
State, that's all right. State, so we used to have its contract.
I don't know, but you got some companies that do building, and then others that do regular contract stuff. And then they'll shift that off more or less, but, I can't answer that. Yes. I thought you had it. Anything else, Brooke?
I don't have any, not anybody else has any questions, but as, we were saying, some of this stuff can't be done until later in the year when students aren't in the building, and that's, so we're hoping to end by June 30th. We might run over into July just a little bit.
One other thing, I think it's important for everybody to know. Somebody in this, the oldest school we got is Stony Creek. It's pushing close to 70. But it's a sound building. Got a lot of money there. But anytime you're dealing with a septic system and a filtration system, anything can happen. And the school now has probably 140, 145 students. Give you all a little background on that. 1992. We closed 6 schools and opened 2, North and South. Believe it or not, North and South were built for $9 million total. A lot of rumors came up about, well, Stony Creek had more kids then. A lot of things were saying, well, why you didn't close Stony Creek at that time? Right? I was not in the decision-making role at that time, so I can't answer that for you. But we're taking a strong look at that, different possibilities, but it is a sound building. Problem comes up here, what can we do with that building? I've been told there's supposed to be some housing developments in that area, bring more kids. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but we're hovering around 140, 145 kids there. Small school, yeah. Want to be upfront with you about that. It has been a discussion that we have no made, because you could save some money there if we did something different. But that's the fact for Stony Creek right now.
Since you brought that up,
Yes.
about, you got an approximate number of students in the other 3 elementary schools.
Oh, yeah.
307 in north,
We were selling those.
34 in south.
Okay.
364 at Oakwood. First 140 in Stony Creek, 598 at Harvey Anson, 419 in Dillon.
And one thing, North and South, they were open in 92. South has never been at capacity, never. First year North opened, it had grades kindergarten through grade 7 and had over 700 plus kids. That was my first year there. But where North is, as bad as where South is, different dynamics. And that's just a fact of life, and you don't have that many kids coming back in, but there are plenty of vacant classrooms at South Elementary. North is down, but it's still holding. Like I said, Oakwood is the largest elementary school
I would say that you probably got more charter school students
from that area.
from that area.
Correct.
Going, because Clipper Garden is by far biggest one on this list.
Correct. I would probably say with first year we opened 700 kids. But then you gotta look at the distance. For example, you had kids that lived near Williamsburg Mill, and you send them over to South, how far that is, or if you send them to North, how far that is, or to Oakwood. That's just the reality of it. When you start drawing your lines like that. And I don't mind telling you, I'll say it. South School is where it should not be. That's the fact. South School, in my opinion, should have been over by Bain Store. And it would have been closer for transportation purposes. But the way the lines were drawn and where the school was built, that's what you got. All right, anything else? I'm sorry.
I actually just received an answer to your question, Mr. Rose. All 3 leaks at the high school were fixed by us. And so far, so good.
Okay, thank you. Go.
I know, I just want to say Sunny Creek's in my district. I know we've had a little discussion about Sunny Creek, but we hadn't had a lot of discussion. And I would want every one of us to get on a bus and ride that route to see how far the kids, how long you have to be on that bus to get to a school. And Oakwood's almost full. North is close to full, am I right?
No, no.
So north and south.
North and south.
And I just think if we did that, we gotta consider how many more kids are gonna leave the county and go to Clover Bar. But that's just my thought.
That's my district too. When they opened that last leg of the bypass around Greensboro, it changed the dynamics of that southwest part of the county. I mean, yeah, I live in the northern part of District Two up there in Casville.
Right.
I could be at the airport in Greensboro in 32 minutes.
Correct.
I mean, yeah, it's coming there. It's coming from Meta. It's coming from down. Those areas get ready to explode. And Scott, please help me out here, but we had something last meeting or two where I think our permits had gone up two times, maybe three in this year.
Was a lot, I don't remember the exact number, but
I'm a close on triple.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, building permits. So, you know, I wouldn't be quick to jump.
Well, we're looking at all possibilities because, we are a public school. And, we don't have the luxury of the charter school. Charter schools say you can come, but you cannot come. A lot of people have there's a so-called lottery that they have. You can have a lottery, but what? Somebody controls the lottery too. What money you got, what you can do. If you look at that list, because I question some of these places where some of these kids were going. You can have we have one kid, believe it or not, was going to school in Raleigh. The reason was because his parents were working in Raleigh. And school was right next to where they were working, so it made sense for them, so.
You actually take a look.
Yeah.
Put it in its charts. Probably well over 2 or 3 years. They also approved 100.
True. Anything else, Brooke?
Now, is there a way that the building department can share with the school system, quarterly, kind of some of where those building permits are being pulled? Not really exactly the address of the person, but it's nice for us to know. We already know we got some on Henry T. Gray's Road coming. Already looked at where it was a divided district there where those kids are gonna go. We also know we got some coming on the short section of Park Springs Road. There's talk, I think, there's some coming on Old 86 somewhere near Swans there. We kind of just learned from that stuff word of mouth. It'd be nice if the planning department or the building department could share that information because, like Oakwood is almost at capacity. And, for us, if new building is coming, it allows us in the summer to decide if we do send some kids from this area to Stony Creek because this area is going to flood out. We don't give any of the information to us kind of already done and we're behind the eight ball.
I think the majority of it is South Florida County and the north.
Mr. Horton, you're on.
So back in mid-December, the Caswell County Board of Commissioners adopted a fiscal year 27 budget calendar. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to just point out some dates within this calendar that I think are relevant to the Caswell County school system. So with that said, the first date, January the 7th, is more of an FYI for you all, but the county or the finance office had sent out what I would call the FY 27 budget development files. And that's where, where the departmental leadership, will begin to develop their budgets within this file. I know the school system is independent of that process and their own budgets. There was a small component that, that we would appreciate to do that. So again, that's more FYI. Friday, January the 16th, I intend to send out, a capital improvement, a plan development file. And what this file is gonna attempt to accomplish is, again, I'm gonna send this file out to the department, leadership and other stakeholders. And with this file, with the intent of this file to come up with a 7-year, capital improvement plan for the various departments and stakeholders. So I will be sending that out, this coming Friday. Jumping down to Monday, March the 16th. That's when my capital improvement file, I'd say is due back to central finance. So that we can then begin to start to compile that information. It looks like that would be something that's pretty easy for the school system to provide. I see something very similar to it, already today. So I hope it's not going to be too much of an administrative burden. Jumping to Wednesday, March the 25th. I think that's where, that's where basically the county is asking for a draft version of your budget. Then Tuesday, May the 12th, the Board of Commissioners is going to have a special call meeting, a work session with various department heads, and I anticipate that Caswell County Schools will be a part of that. And then the next bullet point, or I'm sorry, the next date, July the 1st, obviously, is when the new fiscal year.
Now, let me just add something to that conversation. So what we're trying to do with this calendar is we're trying to get to this first big step for the public. The first big deliverable is what you see right here, this Monday, April 27th. So late April, having preliminary budget and CIP draft completed. That's kind of the first really solid look at how the budget's shaping up. And if you jump back to probably the most important date on here for the school system is this March the 25th date. That's when your request is going to be in. So, and no, most of the school board knows this, but I'm sure the board understands exactly when the deadline, there's a statutory deadline that school systems are to have. Is it May 15th? May something.
It's May 15th.
So it's May 15th. And the only reason I bring that up is because while that's the statutory requirement, it's obviously way too late in the process for this to work well. And so that's why you have that difference if you ever see that statutory May deadline versus what we're asking for all the way back here on March the 25th.
Okay.
That's it.
Any questions for our finance man?
At one time, we used to get together to talk about our budget, session like this, and we submitted it, then we come to talk about it. Yes, in a setting like this, instead of setting where, those regular meetings. But I don't know if that's possible before we get into the nitty gritty of it, but I think it gives a good chance to do Q&A back and forth of, this is why we feel like we need this, why you don't think we need this, have some good dialogue, which we kind of did some of that on an individual basis, but, if y'all want to go visit or whatever we want to do, gives a chance to get all that done before we get out to y'all's approval. I
there. Yeah. Any other questions, Mr. Horton? Not, we're gonna kind of open it up for just a few minutes, hopefully. Just a general question and answer session. So we'll start with you. Previous years when you were going over the highlights from this past. And it really don't. You said South was a signature school. What does that mean? Okay.
They're just recognized by the, Piedmont Triad Education Consortium. They pick senior schools. You have one from each district.
Like 17 schools.
And due to there being top 10% of elementary schools in the state, force, that will be the pick.
Question and answer, thank you. Any other questions? Comment?
I'd like to bring up something you asked about those building permits. I just want to show you real quickly that is on our website. And so if you go to our homepage, if you go to the second tab here, government page, if you scroll down to get to our meeting, we have what you have here is our last meeting, January 5th. If you go to the agenda, that's something that we actually had on here, which is building permits report, item 8. And if you just do a search for, I mean, you can scroll through the pages, but if you just do a search for item 8, building permits report, and what you have, what you were asking about is all right here. So this is from July 1 through the end of the year, so the last half of 25. And so that data is all there, hopefully easy to find. And
But I think Scott, what he's asking is if it can have a geographical location.
That would have to change.
Yeah, so that they would know if X amount of students were in this district.
Yeah. Or even if it comes from the planning department, even if the planning department said, hey, we're approving 20 houses to be built here, or we're approving this many lots to start construction and development. That's good information for us to have when we're bus routing or figuring out things for next year, where they're gonna be geographically, because we may get to the point where we're having to move some students from this school to this school or change some lines of where they're picking up if we're getting overpopulated, and especially in elementary, it doesn't really matter. Still in high school.
I have to make a suggestion, if he's thinking countywide, he's not thinking school districts. If you got him a big map of school districts and said, hey, would you just kind of basically give us where you have new homes? Because a lot of those permits might be a electrical upgrade.
Right.
It's not, so. Get him to be able to think in the way you're thinking. Probably it won't be difficult.
The total that report there was $29 million in
That's great.
the year 6 months.
Any other questions?
New housing developments, I think I'm heard at least 2. Is that about right? New housing developments coming into Castle County?
defined by what size? What are you calling it?
Is it like more than 10 houses in a unit or 20 houses in an area? It's
Yeah,
coming to,
that's something we can get back with you from the planning department, to be specific to where those are.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's one on Park Springs Road that's
Okay.
that's actually getting started now. The town, I mean, it's been rumored that there's gonna be one in there behind Noah's Park, the daycare.
Look down Cherry Road.
Cherry Road, it's got a lot, like I said, building up there, so, yeah, quite a bit. Any other questions?
I do have a question. There's been a lot of discussion and conversation about the use of the civic center. Is there any way we can make that more of a community building, an asset to the county? I don't know, I don't know, hold back now, what's the cost or?
Let me give you a background. When I say we, when I was a commissioner, the school system tried to give it to the county. County wouldn't take it. Number one. It's, I think I'm right, there's probably only 2 or 3 like it in the United States on school property. Okay. The federal grant written by the late Dr. Lawrence Walker, that's how we got it. Okay. And it's a plus. But the upkeep, and the maintenance, rentals that we get does not offset that. Utilities and everything. One thing we did that, what we did, December meeting, the December meeting, we waived the cost for the veterans to use it on Memorial Day and Veterans Day. The only charge to them would be the custodial fee. It's kind of like not a self-sustaining building. Okay. You never know how many people are going to rent it. And actually go in the hole every year. It's a good facility now. But people don't always, well, let me back up, you know, like this. When Lee Post was alive, it was a moneymaker because we had the adult programs, we had the student programs. Once actually his job was community schools coordinator, but he never did that. He did the civic center, which was a plus for us. But since his passing, nobody has taken that up. We don't have a position that we can put in there, pay for to be solely doing that. Y'all, you like to have it? Who's lead folks? You had more people from outside the county coming than inside the county. They had the student youth programs too. I mean, it was wonderful. But that's been on our radar because we need somebody full time to run that place. Building is there.
I said, all counties don't pay.
Oh, no.
Maybe something we could talk about splitting this issue. County paying person to come in and try to draw in some, or
I
get
think
some
it warrants a discussion.
programs in there. We don't have any, very seldom is any school programs in there. You used to have 2 or 3 times a year where all the schools went over there to write something that they did. But other than the dance recital companies,
Family reunions or whatever. That might be something we could do.
you know, we spent very much money over the last couple of years upgrading, fixing the seats, fixing the lights, the little things to try to keep them.
Maintain.
How much you put in home thing a year?
Brooke, how much is going in the hole?
Here.
You take too many events to fill
Right.
up.
No,
And they used to write grants, and Mr. Folks was there, it was grant writing that what, so every child, like during the school day, we used to have students that come during the day and they had all those programs too, so someone was writing grants so that different people could attend and it was cost effective.
So this figure,
It is worthwhile.
this figure's right, it's $2,300 so far in rent this year.
yeah, so far in rent.
But I would like $2,300 for the first 6 months.
We don't have that many events scheduled.
Usually the second half of the year is a little bit heavier on rentals just because of the dance recitals and things like that. So the first half of the year is kind of
Not much going on.
not much going on. Fortunately.
We rent it in like 3 components. You can rent the small part of the auditorium, you can rent the kitchen, or you can rent
The big
the big
auditorium,
part.
yeah.
You got different things, you're not having to rent the entire.
And repairs and utilities have really taken a hit over the last several years. I think one year we spent, what was it, $15,000 just on curtains, because the curtains are
Right.
so expensive and they have to be custom and new.
Who's the contact? Who's the contact and like somebody wants to? You call them school?
Yeah, let me guys, that's Central.
Oh, okay.
See, we used to have a full-time director there and clerk. And the student school system, but it was called community schools coordinator. They don't have that position. When we could not absorb locally. Once he passed away, we had to feel that.
So I'll say as the new-ish manager, I haven't actually been to that building yet. There just haven't been any events that I've been aware of. And, I bet our economic development, contractor has probably not been in that building either. Not aware of it from the standpoint of what it really offers.
We used to have companies from Denver, like when they closed that corner, used to have their staff development there. All the workers came. And, some worthy of discussion.
More questions? All right. I believe this is the first time that these two boards have gotten together. I know we didn't meet it all. And I think probably everyone would agree that it would probably be a good idea that we not go that long again. So what's the feeling on setting up our annual meeting, quarterly meeting? What y'all think? It's important.
We used to do it. And sometimes not a lot of discussion sometimes. But like twice a year might be better than quarterly. There's something to look forward to. But we cannot survive without y'all. Twice.
Thinking twice, and if we see a need, we can meet more often. So thoughts on when you want it? Anybody? Want to meet in January, July, or in April, or September?
I'll say I like April for a simple fact of, like, if we meet in April now, then it's a good time to discuss our budget. If we send it into you on the 25th, right, we meet the first part of April, and it kind of gives us time to think about our budget. Things like that, so. We want to go April and then again in the fall.
Yeah, because summertime you got vacations, so people out of town.
So what about April and October? This is the first and third Mondays. If we meet, go.
Each second and fourth. Going wrong with April is spring break comes in there. It gets that for the.
First meet on 14th.
That'll be the Tuesday after. Everybody come back.
We'll be back.
Tuesday, April the 14th. Anybody have an issue with that they know of tonight?
Yeah, what I might suggest is Mr. Stokes and Scott get together. Make sure, there's no conflict. Right? It's amenable to everybody. You good with that, Scott?
Sir, you said Tuesday, April 14th.
Have a starting point and just discuss that with Mr. Stokes and he let it all out.
Like evenings like this, 6 o'clock.
We meet on the, like, so your next meeting is the first in by the time. Well,
Two of them has that, if we get back and forth. All right, at this time, Capital County Board of Education, entertain a motion for us to adjourn. Okay. Second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand.
And we're all right, I'll entertain a motion during the commission. Motion, Mr. Ingram, second, Mr. Rose, any discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor, let me know, saying aye. Aye. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, appreciate everybody coming out. Meeting adjourned. Yes, ma'am.